threatening to burn my back.
What the actual Bro, you guys see this? There's a human head here. I don't know.
I literally just woke up out of like a weird... What the fuck is that?
Some nights in the wilderness feel wrong from the start. From glowing eyes and deep growls circling a campsite to explorers finding caves filled with human bones. Sometimes the deeper you go, the worse it gets. Would you stay or leave immediately? On a freezing night deep in Shadowfigure Forest, a YouTuber known as Jarbear and his nephew Jakey headed into the frozen woods on a sasquatch hunt. The two are the faces behind Exploring with Bear, a channel built around wilderness expeditions, cryptid hunting, and overnight investigations in remote locations. The video was uploaded on February 25th, 2025. They moved through the snow without realizing that something may have already picked up their trail.
Oh my goodness. No.
I gotta turn them over.
I about crapped my pants, man.
In the beginning of the night, we were just having fun.
That was Jakey's phone. It was like wind chimes was right here with us. Oh, that was awesome. Sounds like a bunch of rattling and stuff going on back there right now. Holy smokes. When Jakey's, what was that? Notification? It went off like wind chimes.
The first break in the silence turned out to be harmless. A phone notification cutting through the cold night air. But the tension from that moment never fully settled afterward.
That. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was a big thud. I forgot we've heard something weird earlier. That was so long ago. That was a thud for sure. Did you just hear something moving over there? I don't have no... There it is. It came from this direction. That was loud.
Then the ground started responding. Heavy thuds began landing near their fire, close enough to feel intentional. These were not branches falling from overhead. The impacts followed a pattern, the kind that comes from something striking wood on purpose.
Whoa. Shadowfigure Forest. Man, should we go explore a little? We'll just leave our camp and see if we can't.
Vanishing, I'm taking something.
Maybe. I'd like to know what that thing is. That's sort of creeping me out. That's a shadow can't do that. I don't know. Oh. Again. Whoa. Dude, I just seriously just seen there's eyes way back there, but I just seen like a shadow arm and it wasn't yours. I thought at first it could have been you, but
Jarbear caught a glint between the trees. Eyes. Behind them, a large dark figure moved through the shadows, covering ground faster than either of them expected.
What was that?
And this night just took a turn for the worse.
What the heck was that, Jakey? That was vocal. That was so freaking... It sounded like it was echoing. Yeah, get out your... Are we being stalked? I told you I seen eyes darting over there too. I don't have my gun on me, Jakey.
You came down here without a gun.
I don't have my gun on me.
You knew this was the...
We have knives. What is that?
Playing medieval times.
Man, that freaking growl, bark, whatever, holler, that was deep, man. I hope that come on camera. It was happened like right when we was talking, but we both jumped.
I was like about to punch you because I was like so close.
That was so close.
It sounded like it was behind me, but it also sounded like it was coming from over there.
Then came the sound. A deep guttural growl rolled out from the darkness, the kind of vocalization that didn't match anything known to live in those woods.
That was like something on a horror movie. Man, I hope the camera picked that up. I couldn't even make the sound right. I was trying. My throat got caught up. It was like really rakish. What?
I heard sound.
Man, I heard that frickin'. What could have made that screech? That like... Some could be following us still.
It echoed in a way that made the source difficult to place, and it sounded close enough for both of them to react immediately. Before they could fully process it, a shriek tore through the air. It was followed by a low, rhythmic humming that seemed to come from more than one direction at once. The pattern of the sounds made one thing clear. Whatever was out there was no longer coming from a single point.
Yeah. Oh, every hair on my body standing straight up. Hold on, look. Shh. Do you have a weird feeling? I have a bad feeling. Hold on, I gotta change this camera. Take this glove off. Oh, there was that hum again. There was, that was just two of them. Hold on. All right. Man, we got so much crap. My dropping stuff. I can't see nothing with this light on my face. I got a bad feeling. Jakey's got a bad feeling. Whew, my chest is tight. Those sounds were... Whoa! Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I ain't trying to challenge nothing. Hey, anyway, I'm getting the camera. I'm putting the camera up because we got a lot of crap to carry and I can't be filmed. We're just going to...
Something then struck their camp, directly sending equipment scattering across the ground. They grabbed what they could and moved. They did not return. The thuds, the eyes, the growl, and then the humming from multiple directions, each event escalated the one before it. Whether this was one animal or something harder to explain, the behavior described does not fit anything typical for that region. What do you think was out there that night, and would you have stayed as long as they did? On a humid night in Nova Scotia, the man behind Paranormal Discovery returned to Dagger Woods with his dog Kiki, a channel recognized for solo deep woods investigations and cryptid encounters. The video was uploaded on July 8, 2025. The forest carries a legend dating back to the late 1700s. A murderer fled into these woods, was consumed by something ancient, and became what locals refer to as the Dagger Woods. Howler also called the Heidi Hinder, a malevolent presence reported since the region was first settled. As the sun disappeared, the forest began making itself known. A series of loud, violent impacts echoed through the trees, the type of sound produced by something heavy, striking a trunk with force. It was not subtle, and it was not distant.
Hello? Okay, that was tree knocking. That was loud. See something, Key? Like, I kid you not, that was legit something smoking a tree with something. Okay.
The atmosphere grew heavier. Then another sound appeared, the powerful beating of large wings overhead, followed almost immediately by a deep, resonating vibration coming from somewhere inside the brush.
I'm gonna leave it here and just let it play. I don't know what the hell that is. Hello? The fuck is that? Kia, do you hear that? I know. It's okay.
Then, the smell arrived. A wave of rancid odor drifted into the campsite, thick, biological, the kind of stench often associated with large animals, or the type of presence repeatedly described in humanoid encounter reports.
What the fuck is that smell? Holy shit, I smell something horrid. That smell is a horrible body odor from an animal. It's somewhere ahead of me right now. I don't hear any wildlife. Holy shit, it's getting closer. Okay, I'm gonna start trailing back because whatever that smell is, it's an animal coming to me. Holy shit.
He made it back to his tent and managed to rest briefly before being jolted awake around midnight. A high-pitched shriek sliced through the darkness, raw, unnatural, and close enough to sound as if it came from directly outside the tent wall.
I literally just woke up out of a weird sleep right now to I think something screeching. Like literally woke up, went to her. Yeah, she's hearing it too. Holy shit, whatever it is, it's close. Was that in my dream? Like I literally heard it, but now I'm starting to feel like that was just in my dream. What the f... Holy shit. What the fuck?
Then his flashlight caught it. A shadow moved between the trees, fast, deliberate, and unnatural in the way it covered distance. That became the moment the decision was made.
What the fuck is that? It's moving. What the fuck is that? It's moving. I think I'm gonna put her in the car.
He quickly gathered his gear and left Dagger Woods behind without turning back. The smell of the wing beats, the shriek, and then something moving through the flashlight beam each moment escalated the one before it. Encounters like this, in heavily forested places tied to deep local legends, often seem to follow patterns that are difficult to ignore. What do you think was circling that campsite, and at what point would you have stopped pushing your luck? On January 17, 2023, the YouTube channel Ultra Studios uploaded a video documenting what was meant to be a simple trip into the woods. The creator planned the outing alongside a friend named GT, and at the beginning, the atmosphere felt relaxed and easygoing as they introduced the area they planned to explore. As they moved farther into the forest, the tone slowly began to shift. At first, the change was subtle. They started noticing random objects scattered across the ground, empty bottles, old trash, the type of things that by themselves wouldn't necessarily seem unusual. But the deeper they walked, the quieter the surroundings became, and the trail slowly started disappearing. Then along a narrow section of the path, they noticed something that immediately felt out of place. An object partially hidden from view, positioned in a way that didn't seem natural compared to the rest of the area. The creator stopped to examine it more closely, unsure what exactly he was looking at. It seemed strange, but nothing beyond that, at least for the moment. Farther in, within a more isolated part of the forest, the creator spotted something lying ahead on the ground. At first, it didn't immediately resemble anything recognizable. Not a branch, not ordinary debris. He stepped closer. Then the shape suddenly became clear all at once.
Whoa, what the hell? That's a f***ing human skull! That's a f***ing human skull right there! What the actual f***? Bro, you guys see this? There's a human head here! Dude, that looks real. Dude, I don't think that's a prop. That looks f***ing real. I thought it was like a ball at first. That's f***ing real. Oh no, bro, that is so creepy!
The reaction was immediate. Neither of them wanted to remain there any longer. They quickly backed away from the area, and without needing much discussion, both agreed the exploration was finished. They left the forest fast, but even after getting away from the trees, the weight of what they had seen didn't disappear. The creator kept replaying the image in his mind, thinking about the skull and wondering how it could have ended up there. Based on everything available online, no follow-up video was ever uploaded. There's no public explanation for what the skull actually was, and it remains unclear whether authorities were ever contacted about the discovery. Most discoveries like this usually have a simple explanation. This one never seemed to get one. What would you have done if you had been there? Monotone Adventures is a creator who spends much of his time biking and fishing throughout western Pennsylvania and Maryland, and he built his channel around footage he captures during those trips. The video in question was something he felt strongly compelled to upload specifically to bring awareness to situations similar to the one he unexpectedly experienced. It was July 2015. He was traveling through a wooded section along a scenic road when he noticed a woman standing near the roadside who appeared to be in serious distress. At first he rode past her, but something about the situation made him reconsider. It felt more serious than he originally assumed, so he turned around to check on her.
So this girl, I didn't know. She looked like she was not okay. Make sure she is okay. Are you good? What's going on?
I'm really afraid of my boyfriend back. He's kicking things and threatening to burn my bag.
Do you want me to take you somewhere? Alright. Is he driving?
He's been arrested before.
Okay. Where do you live?
I live in Tennessee.
Tennessee. I'll take you into town.
Yeah, I just need to hotel or something.
Alright. Here. Put this on.
My family lives in DC, so they're only 2 hours away. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Here.
I'm just gonna turn it off.
I'll hold that. Give her your jacket.
Huh?
Give her your jacket.
We're not going that way. Put that on.
He's walking on the parking lot.
I know, he was trying to call me to get me to go back, and when I said I was too scared, he was like, I'm just gonna burn your fucking bag.
It's fine. Just put that on. Is it big enough? Alright, go ahead.
The woman was crying. She explained that she had escaped from her boyfriend, who had become violent and was threatening her. The biker didn't spend much time debating what to do. Leaving her alone out there deep in the woods, while someone dangerous could still be nearby, wasn't something he felt willing to do. He handed her his helmet and made the decision to take her toward the nearest town, somewhere she could regain her footing and hopefully find safety.
Put your hand down around my waist. Around my waist.
Sorry?
Have you been on a bike before?
No.
No, okay. I won't say it. Scoot back a tad. Is there foot bags back there?
Yeah.
Put your feet right on there.
You work for your parents?
They're in England. My grandparents are in DC.
You want to call them? So we can have them meet us in Emmitsburg or something. That takes you out from DC.
Oh, I mean, I would just wait there. It's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
Try to call them here.
Do you want to try calling them?
Any attempt to figure out what happened afterward led nowhere. There were never any confirmed updates about whether the bikers stayed in contact with her or what eventually happened involving her boyfriend. What's harder to deny is that their decision to stop and help almost certainly changed how the situation unfolded for her. Isolated in a remote area with a dangerous person potentially searching nearby, it's not difficult to imagine how differently things could have ended, and none of those outcomes are good. Hopefully, the creator eventually comes across this and explains what happened after the video ended. It's also worth considering the larger point raised by the footage. Choosing to help someone during a moment like that can genuinely matter. At the same time, situations like these are not always straightforward, and there have been documented cases where people pretending to need help were actually part of dangerous setups. Staying cautious and paying attention to the circumstances isn't the same as refusing to help, it's simply being smart about how you choose to step in. Most people facing danger truly just need someone willing to stop, but knowing when it's actually safe to stop is a skill on its own. If you'd been on that road and seen her, what would you have done? A YouTube channel called Salong Senaga uploaded a video on November 16th, 2025, documenting a deep forest expedition that ended with a discovery none of them were prepared to encounter. The channel usually focuses on remote locations, hidden caves, and isolated places far from normal routes, but what they came across this time felt completely different. At the beginning of the video, the creator explained the plan. They were heading deep into a dense jungle to investigate a location known among locals, a place connected to strange stories and accounts that had circulated throughout the area for a long time. That alone was enough to draw them in. As the group pushed farther into the forest, the conditions quickly became more difficult. The jungle closed tightly around them, the vegetation grew thicker, and there was no clear trail left to follow. The deeper they traveled, the more disconnected from everything else they felt. After forcing their way through for a while, they began noticing faint signs that other people had passed through before them, partial footprints, disturbed ground cover, and objects resting where they clearly didn't belong. They followed the limited path they could find until eventually reaching a cave.
अंदर का नजारा देखा देता हूँ यहाँ पर.
Standing at the entrance, the darkness inside almost seemed to pull the surrounding light inward. Water dripped from somewhere overhead, echoing through the uneven stone walls. Even so, they decided to enter. With every step deeper inside, the passage narrowed, the ceiling lowered, and the daylight behind them slowly disappeared. They relied completely on the lights they had brought with them when they noticed the first bones scattered across the ground.
हड्डी तो किला है क्या चीज का हड्डी है भाई स्टिक लगा हड्डी स्टिक लाना तो ये तो गुड प्राइस अच्छा तुम शिखंदा है वो तो ना जो खंडे.
They stopped briefly, but not for long. Moving farther in meant rougher terrain and an even less visible route, yet they continued until they arrived at a second cave. Before they even entered, the smell immediately reached them. And once they crossed inside, it became obvious why locals had always spoken about the place the way they did.
Oh, starting. ये एंडरिंग है यहाँ पर भी पड़ा हुआ है ये तो किमान साल ला हुआ है
17-18 सेंचुरी ला हुआ तो
17-18 सेंचुरी ला
हुआ तो
पापा
ये दियामान तुम ना से
ये तो बहुत ही बड़ा है भाई बहुत ये पूरा भरा हुआ है यहाँ पर शायद ये पत्थर ऊपर से गिर के टूटाया होगा इतना बड़ा है
The chamber was filled with human skeletal remains. Skulls and bones lined the walls, and the arrangement clearly wasn't random. The placement suggested something deliberate and intentional. According to local knowledge, the site had been used as a burial location for generations. The tradition involved allowing bodies to decompose naturally before gathering the bones and placing them inside the caves for the permanent keeping.
चलो अंदर तक घुस के दिखता है लग रहा है देखो पूर्वज लोग नाराज मत करना यदि तो अरे यदि भी खुशी से तो खुशी वो सब है ये सभी खोज के देखो यदि भी ऐसे ना ऐसे तो तमोर दिखी ऐसे यदि देखता
The more they searched, the more remains they discovered. Even so, they avoided going all the way inside, aware that the cave itself might not be stable. The weight of the place settled heavily over the entire group. Eventually, they decided it was time to leave. Outside, the forest was already beginning to lose its remaining light, and none of them felt comfortable staying there any longer. Places like this exist in more parts of the world than most people realize, quietly preserving history that never became part of any official record. What would you have done if you had been the one to walk into that cave? On March 20th, 2023, Base Camp Chris shares a camping story that takes place in northern Utah. This time, the video follows a man returning to a location that already felt strange before the night had even started. Rodney arrives at a familiar campsite connected to personal memories. It isn't his first visit there, but something immediately feels different the moment he arrives. He notices a tent already standing nearby, yet no one is around. There are no vehicles, no equipment, and no obvious signs that anyone is close by.
Okay, so Rodney, back in 2016, June of 2016, his wife had passed away. Really tough, really hard situation. And what he wanted to do was go to their old camp spot east into the mountains there, into the national forest, and say goodbye to her. So he packed everything up, and he's leaving from Ogden, Utah, going about 35, 40 miles east and a little bit north into the Wasatch Cache National Forest. So he finally gets over there and he's heading up this road, very windy road along this Curtis Creek it was called. And he finally gets to this campsite that they had spent time at, and there was a tent in the campsite. And he was really disappointed to see that. But he noticed it was a little strange. There was no vehicles, there was no cooler, no other camping gear around the tent. It was just a two-man tent just sitting there in their spot. He didn't feel right camping there, so he walked over and he looked at this tent, and there was no rain fly on it. He looked into the tent and there was nothing in the tent. He decided to go up the road a couple miles, find another spot. He drove, didn't find anything, and he didn't feel right about coming all the way out here and not being at least near this spot where he had these memories with his wife. So he comes back and he finds a spot about 20 yards away from this other campsite that they like to stay at. It was a little tighter with the pine trees, but he had just enough room to put his cabin tent up. But what was interesting, the whole day, him packing and heading out, he had this gut feeling that something was going to go wrong. He didn't really know what to do with it, but he still had this feeling.
As he walks through the area, he begins to feel like someone is watching him. At one point, he hears faint, unclear noises coming from the forest, but nothing he can clearly identify.
He decided to go for a little walk down the road, stretch his legs, and then walk by the old campsite. He continues on down this road, and he had this feeling, he went a couple miles, of feeling of being watched. And it was really weird because he didn't hear anything, he didn't see anything. He just had this feeling of being watched. He said, I didn't think it was a bear, but I had this feeling that it was a Bigfoot. And he passes the old campsite again, and he thought he heard some talking off in the trees. He couldn't quite hear what they were saying or what it was. It was very indiscernible. It was almost like mumbling. It was hard to really nail it down. You kind of heard it in and out for a little bit, and it was very faint.
That night, he suddenly wakes up to a deep whooping sound.
And around midnight, he hears this really loud whoop, whoop, and it was coming towards his tent. It's pitch black. He doesn't have the lights on. It just woke him up, and he's thinking, this is unreal. You're kidding me. Of all the times I'm alone and just going through this stuff in my life here, and now this is happening. It was just kind of surreal to be experiencing that. It quit after a pretty short time, about 20 seconds, it was done.
Then the noise changes. A scream begins, longer, sharper, and unlike the earlier sound.
Then about 1, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, he was awoken again, but this time it was this really loud screaming. It made the hair on the back of his neck go up. And he said at the end it sounded like a female voice to it. Again, he laid there, he listened. Finally it stopped after 15-20 minutes.
It doesn't resemble a normal animal call. At times it almost sounds human, but never clearly enough to understand. The noises continue throughout the night, repeating and lasting longer each time. It no longer feels random. It starts to feel intentional, as if something is remaining nearby. As morning gets closer, everything suddenly becomes quiet. Once there's enough light outside, he looks out and notices a large shadow reflected across his truck.
He's in the trees, the sun's on the horizon, and it's still dark where he was. He took all the courage he had to unzip the window. He looked over by his truck, and he saw a big shadow cast on his truck. He waited a little bit longer, the sun was higher, unzips the tent, he gets out, right away he goes behind the tent and he's looking for tracks. He didn't see anything. Goes down to the road, it's a dirt road, if it walked across the road I'd see some tracks. He looked pretty hard for tracks, didn't see any tracks.
He doesn't investigate further. Instead, he quickly packs his belongings and leaves the area. Sometimes nothing feels obvious in the moment, just small details that seem wrong. But the experience didn't end there. Years later, he returned to the same location with a friend. This time the area looked different. Large trees had been knocked over and scattered across the ground in ways that didn't appear natural. Seeing that brought back an older memory, another disturbing camping encounter from his 20s that he had never forgotten. What you're about to hear next is the audio Rodney recorded while sharing that story with the host.
And at nighttime, my wife woke me up and nothing dawned on me. She said somebody's raiding our camp. Big canvas tent. It was about 16 foot long. The dogs were whimpering, but they never barked. And, none of this really dawned on me. I was tired, so I grabbed a black powder, which I had at the time, and I unzipped the door and I yelled, "You better get out of here or I'm going to shoot your ass." And it was so black, I couldn't see nothing. And as I turned to go back in, I looked down the length of my tent, and there was a big black shadow there. I could see the blackness, and it took off. And it was blacker than the black outside. And when it did, it didn't make no noise. It took me about a week or two, to be honest with you, to suddenly realized, you know, that wasn't no person. There's no way he could have done it without hearing a ow, ooh, or something, you know, stubbing a foot, falling in a hot gut hole or a big boulder. And it didn't have a light. So, and it was dark enough that there's no way you'd see a human doing it without a light, without making some kind of a noise there, you know. And then it dawned on me that it was at least 2 feet taller than me, that shadow. And it was pretty wide.
Rodney started to suspect that what he encountered may have been something much larger than he originally realized, possibly something connected to Bigfoot. Ironically, not fully understanding what it might have been could have helped him stay calm and make the right choice to leave. Many viewers believe experiences like this are less about what you actually see and more about how you respond. In remote places, remaining calm and trusting your instincts can make all the difference. So if you were in that situation, what would be the very first thing you'd do? This unsettling camping encounter comes from Rachel and Tommy, a US-based van life and wilderness exploration channel centered around real-time outdoor stays in remote countryside areas. The incident takes place in April 2025 in southern Oklahoma, United States. Before anything begins, they reference an earlier visit. During that previous trip, they describe noticing movement behind the van while eating something they were unable to identify. They also mention hearing howls coming from several directions, creating the feeling of being surrounded or triangulated. Nothing was confirmed at the time, but the experience left a strong enough impression for them to return.
Just turned the camera off and we heard a sound out here we've never heard. And it was not a howl, it was not a roar, it was a rumble. It wasn't an airplane or anything. I know, you know, obviously I was born in 1971. I know what airplanes sound like. But this was about the time of day last time whenever I was eating and something walked across behind us, and it was just right at dark. We heard something howl coming from over there, then one from back over here, and then one from back out here.
Yeah. As darkness settles in, the sound continues. One of them points toward a specific direction, suggesting the noise is coming from a fixed location instead of moving randomly. That detail changes the atmosphere completely. It no longer feels like ordinary background noise. It feels placed deliberate and controlled.
Let's see if y'all can hear this. Let me get over here where it's quiet. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Zoom my camera in.
Go away.
I don't know what that is coming from down in that area. Not so much over here. Well, I don't know.
Rather than staying inside, they make a choice. They leave the van and head toward the wooded peninsula, where the sound appears to be coming from. Visibility immediately becomes limited. Their headlamps only illuminate small sections at a time. Insects swarm through the air, and the terrain grows more difficult to navigate. Even so, they continue moving forward, attempting to track something they still haven't actually seen. There's no confirmation, only the same unclear direction, drawing them farther in. Most of the time in situations like this, the natural instinct is to remain where you are. Stay inside the van, remain near the light, and keep your distance from whatever is unknown. But here they do the opposite. They hear something they cannot explain and decide to move toward it, not because they understand it, but because they want answers. That decision changes everything from simply observing the situation to becoming part of it. Sometimes the difference isn't what you hear, but the choice you make afterward. And when you continue walking towards something you don't understand, at what point do you realize you may have gone too far? The last terrifying video comes from Destination Unknown, an outdoor exploration channel focused on immersive hiking experiences in remote areas. The date is February 4th, 2023, in the Blue Ridge Mountain region near Asheville, North Carolina, United States. The group starts their hike along a remote forest trail.
So we went on a hike. We were in Asheville, North Carolina. We're just gradually, it took us like forever to find this mountain, and it was beautiful. So we're going up there. It was just us. All of a sudden, I hear like footsteps behind me, and it's like this girl. It was what she said that like gave me and Chip the creeps.
We're like a half mile into this thing.
Right.
out of nowhere. Didn't see her following us.
So all of a sudden I look behind me, I'm like, oh, you know me. I'm like, this is Shy Girl, right? So I'm like, oh, hey. I'm like, what's up? I was like, I'm so sorry. If you want to go ahead of us, go for it. We're just taking our time. And she goes, what did she say?
You're going my pace or something?
You're going
like that?
my pace. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to stick with you. I mean, she did not
if
say
we're going your pace
anything.
And we haven't seen nobody for like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And now you're right up on us.
I mean, the trailhead, you start right from the street and then you go up. So there's no other way.
At first, everything follows the tone of a normal travel vlog, with steady movement down the path, casual conversation, and wide shots of the surrounding woods. As they continue, farther in the environment becomes more enclosed. The trail narrows, visibility decreases, and the presence of other people disappears completely. They are deep enough into the forest that any encounter should be easy to predict, either someone ahead of them or approaching from the opposite direction.
I didn't see her when we got here. Haven't seen nobody on this trail. There's no other trails. There's nobody in it. Where'd that girl go, babe? Did we leave her?
I don't know where she went, but she went somewhere else.
She just disappeared. That's so creepy. Was she real? Or where would she have gone?
I don't know.
It's crazy, man. I mean...
She literally disappeared. Unless there's a different part to the trail.
Then a woman suddenly appears behind them. No footsteps are heard, no earlier sighting, just suddenly there, walking along the same trail after a long stretch where nobody else had been visible. The timing is what stands out the most. Later, they begin trying to understand what happened. They review the trail layout and the surrounding terrain, noticing how limited the possible routes are. The path is clearly defined, and although visibility is restricted, movement at close range should still be noticeable. Yet, no one remembers seeing her leave. By the end of the hike, the question remains unanswered. They revisit the moment, focusing less on her appearance and more on how she disappeared, because that is the detail that does not fit. Seeing someone on a hiking trail is not unusual. Even in isolated areas, you eventually expect to cross paths with another person, but normally it follows a clear pattern. You see them approaching, hear them getting closer, pass by them, and watch them leave in a way that makes sense. Here, that sequence breaks completely. She appears without warning and disappears without any obvious explanation. And once that pattern is broken, it is not the encounter itself that stays with you, but the missing part in between. Sometimes it is not what you see that feels unsettling, but what you never actually witness happening. So if something like that occurred right behind you, would you notice it immediately or only realize it after it was already gone? That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story, share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.